I'm going to construct this image and walk you through this construction. And it's a different type of a composite for me. A lot of my composites are taking different scenic elements and blending them together to look realistic. And this is more of a composite where I'm just stacking images in ways that make it, you know, look interesting, make it look like sort of this wallpaper background or an old vintage card. And very timely with Mother's Day coming up on Sunday, I thought this would be a terrific exercise. And I invite you to join me. If you've gone to the Photomorphos blog site, you can download the files that I'll be using in today's project from the blog. So just go to photomorphos.com/blog, and you'll find a link where you can download the files, and we can create this. So in this little, tutorial, I'll talk about masking. I'll talk about working in the layers module and orienting and duplicating different layers to achieve these specific techniques. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'll close out these files here. The first thing I'm going to do is create a new file. And I'm going to go up to the File menu and create New. Let's just title this Mother's Day Card. And I'm going to set it to specific pixel dimensions. So I'm going to choose pixels. Let's set it to 3,000 pixels by a height of 2,000 pixels. And this is all fine. I think I'm just going to change it to sRGB color profile because eventually I'll be sending this to my mom via email probably. And the other thing about using this as your Mother's Day bouquet, doesn't require water, guaranteed not to wilt, so there's a lot of advantages to this. So now I created a new image for a specific reason. A lot of times if you start an image, you might want to bring in something like this, one of my artistic selections textures as a background that I'll be using today. But if I brought that in as the initial image, it would have a file name and everything. I wanted to bring it in as a layer and not as a file, so I've created this new file. All right. But the first thing I do want to do is bring in this texture, and I've got it selected in my Files panel, in the Navigator window, in the Layers module, and I'm just dragging it in and dropping it, and it's asking me in the dialog box if I want to add it as a layer. I say, yep, I sure do. So it opens it up in that. I'm going to just do a Command- just to back out just a little bit. I like to have a little border around, and I can see that my texture is the same size as the document that I've created, and we're ready to go, and it appears in the layer stack here. I don't need this transparent layer anymore, so I can select it and click on the minus layer icon. So I'm ready to go. Now, in the package of files that you've downloaded from the site, I've included already outlined images so that you can just drag and drop them onto a background and organize them in different ways. But what I'd like to do is show you specifically some outlining concerns, some techniques for using perfect mask. And so I'm going to go ahead and outline a couple of these images just to begin. So I think the first one I'm going to do is this carnation. And this file I shot straight overhead. I had a little arrangement where I had poked this little support up through the bottom of a white card. I lit the white card underneath the flower, shot straight down so that the flower obscured the support. And this is straight out of camera, so I'm starting with something that's actually a fairly simple outline process because I've got this clean background. Let's go ahead. I'm going to take this in and put it on my background in this. I can do that by just since I already have it open as a document, I can come on here and go under the layer menu, copy layer, then change my document to the Mother's Day card and go up under the layer again and say paste layer. And it's going to paste the flower image on the top of the layer stack here on top of my texture. I want to do that because as I'm outlining this flower, I want to be able to see through the mask to the texture below to see how it's blending. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is scale this down just a little bit so the entire flower is showing in here, and I can just come up here under the scale and slider and just come down maybe to about 90%, maybe move it up here just a little bit and apply. Now I'm ready to take it into Perfect Mask. There's a couple of things that you can do prior to taking it into Perfect Mask if you're worried about getting a successful mask built. And one of the things is that I could take this into Perfect Enhance and punch up the color and punch up the contrast to make sure that I've got enough color or tonal information that makes it easy for the program to identify the hard edge contrasts. But I think this is going to be fairly straightforward. So I'm just going to hop right into Perfect Mask for you. Okay. Now, the first thing that the Perfect Mask does is it goes in here and processes color segments. It looks for similar color segments and combines them into blocks of color. Now I've got, there's a little bit of density in the white down underneath here. So the white is not perfectly even all the way around, but by segmenting it, this becomes all one color, and it's very easy to eliminate that way. Let me show you. You can see that best, and I'm going into the segments viewing mode to view this in segments. And there's a slider scale up here that determines how many segments, how many colors are grouped into a segment. So it's really how many colors. So as you increase the number of colors that are grouped into a segment, the color segments coalesce into fewer colors. This could be advantageous if you've got something that's got few colors and you don't want a lot of different varying color segments, okay? If you've got an image that has a lot of different colors and gradients, then a lower segment setting is probably your best friend, okay? So, I'll probably take this down a little bit, make sure that we've got clean, but you can see that the white has all been grouped into one segment, and it becomes pretty easy to isolate because of that, all right? So we can change our view mode now and go to all layers, because as I process this mask, I want to be able to see this background in behind. So I have the drop brush selected up in here. There's a keep brush and a drop brush and a refine brush at the very top of the tool palette in Perfect Mask. With a large brush selected, I just run through the white. Because it's all one segment, it will go in and select all of that, and it does a really nice job of knocking out that entire background in one stroke. But you'll notice that I've got some fringing here. I've got some white fringing here that is going to need some refinement. Well, that's where the refine brush comes in. So with the refine brush, using the bracket tools, I might come on in here to 100%, and you can see I'm going to go ahead and reduce the size of the brush here. So if I trace along these edges, you can see that it's going to refine the edges and blend them very nicely. It gets rid of that little bit of sort of feathered background, a little bit of that color contamination. I've got color contamination selected up here too, so that it's actually going to be taking out some of that white background. And actually, that might be showing here. So I'm going to uncheck that for right now, because I think it's actually neutralizing some of the color on the edges. It's very handy if you've got something like a green fringe or something like that coming through. Okay, so I'm gonna do this fairly quickly, and I'll show you a couple of other tools as well. It looks like I'm going to need that color contamination on after all. So let me come on in here, do this outlining for you. Little bite-sized chunks. So I'll show you a couple of methods. This is one method, and it can be very effective. And because I can see the background through, I can see, pretty much how good a job it's doing. One of the other things that you can do, another way to look at the mask as you're creating it, is to go to this mask grayscale. It's actually going to show you the white is revealing the flower, the black is blocking the background, and you can see that as I've gone through here, it's actually got some gray transitional areas in the white and the black. Okay, so one of the ways that you can take care of that is in this little adjustments panel. And I'd like to get rid of some of the gray areas in this white part of the mask, and I can just increase white contrast a little bit. You can take care of all of that area. And I can grow and shrink this as well. So by looking at the grayscale image, you can get a lot of information that's not readily visible looking in the all layers view. Okay. So the other thing that you can do is do a, well, let me show you the keep and drop colors as well. So these are very powerful tools for creating a really accurate mask. And I like to start with the minus dropper, and you select colors. It's not visible now, but it's actually selecting from the image that's masked out, and it's selecting the white background. So just with a couple of different selections in that area, I'm collecting a set of drop colors that it's going to use to analyze what to drop from the image. Same way with the keep dropper. So I'm going to come in here and select 5 or 6 different tones of colors in this area that I want to be able to keep. All right. With these selected in that set, you can come up here to the magic brush tool. Let me scale this magic brush down just a little bit and watch what happens. Make sure also in your mode that you select auto. Auto will add in colors that are in my keep palette, and it will subtract the colors automatically in one stroke that are in the drop. So if we come in here, you can see that this is doing care of all of those colors. So I use the keep drop colors a lot. You can see how accurate it is, and it's not affecting the tones of the image, and it's just creating a really nice highlight. Now, if you do have something like this where there's a little bit of fringing left afterwards, you can use one of these cleanup tools. So this is the chisel tool, and you can regulate the amount and hardness of the chisel tool, and it will come in here. Make sure you've got it set to remove if you want to remove this little bit, and you can come in here and then perfect your edge even more. Okay, so I do a ton of masking, and I love these tools in Perfect Mask that allow me to do this. And you can hop back and forth between the tools to get just the kind of outline that you need. And the real success to successful composites is the amount of attention you pay to these techniques, this outlining. A good mask is worth a lot in terms of the success of the composite. So again, I'm just coming in here, refining the edge on this, doing a little bit of cleanup as well. I might just increase the amount just a little bit. Yeah. So you can see it's doing a really nice job of creating a nice soft blend between the edges of the flower and the background. I hope this is helpful. The files that you've downloaded all have already been outlined for you. But if you go out and take your own pictures of flowers, this is a technique that you're going to be happy that you paid some attention to. Now, the other part, let me chisel this away. The other thing that is really important in a lot of areas of selections is the pin tool. If you've got hard edges that are difficult to get into, sometimes the pin tool is really the only way to get in and edit that. So that's a good thing to use as well. So let me just finish this up real quick here. Now we can get back on track. All right. All right. That looks pretty good to me. Let's zoom on out. Look at that. That's a beautiful outline. Let me come in here and just drill that out just a little bit more. Right in here. Okay, so that's looking pretty good to me. When you're done, just click apply, and it takes us right back into our composite. Now, I'm going to turn that off for right now, and I'm going to go ahead and start building the composite. So keeping in mind those little lessons that you learned in Perfect Mask, it's a very powerful program for creating all these things. But I'll go ahead and start now on the composite. And the first, really what I wanted to do is create this sort of vintage card look. I chose this background because I kind of like the distressed nature of it. It looks like some paper, and it's got some, some interesting distress marks and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and grab this white daisies, and because it's a PNG that supports transparency, it's going to come in with the background already knocked out. So I'm going to say OK, and it comes in here. And then the first thing I want to do is to go ahead and transform it, make it smaller and transform it and put it into place. I'm going to do that with the transform tool up here, which you can access just by clicking on the V key, which means sort of move, and that translates to transform to me. So I'm going to go ahead and sort of shrink this down a bit, maybe like, I'd say somewhere around there. Maybe give it a little bit of a rotation. When you see your cursor turn into that circle, you can rotate this triangle a bit. So I'm going to rotate this around maybe to about here. Okay, move it up into the corner, something about like this. Yeah, let's try just right about there. Okay, so and then I'm going to say apply with these flowers. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this little key down here in the layers palette that is the duplicate layers. So I've duplicated it, and it sits right on top of it, the first image, and it's labeled white daisies #1 here. But I want to flip the reverse orientation of this. There's a couple of keys up here in your tools option palette. I still have the transform tool selected, so I have these. So I'm going to click on this vertical flip. Okay, now it's flipped it upside down, and then what I'm going to do is move that into a similar position down here so that it looks pretty much the same as what I've got up on top. Okay, I need to do that in these two corners over here, and I'll show you a quick way of doing that. If you're happy with the position of these two images, I'm just going to combine these. So with this top white daisies one selected, I'm going to click this button that says merge layer, and it's going to merge down after I apply that transformation, and it becomes one layer now. Because it's one layer and I need two over here on this side, I'm going to again repeat. I'm going to duplicate this layer so that I've got two sets of two daisy images. And I'm going to flip it in the reverse orientation horizontally with this command up here. Okay? Then we drag it over here, and voila, very quickly I have created these flowers in all four corners. And I'm going to use this technique with the other different images of flowers that I've got here until I fill this whole thing up with flowers and make a bouquet. All right. So these 5 flowers here, I think I'm going to grab these pink flowers next. Drag them in here. Yes, I want to add it as a layer. And then again, I'm going to scale this a little bit. I think I'm going to keep this orientation, but I might just shrink it up a bit. Again, I've got the transform selected. I'm going to hold down the Shift and the Option key. The Shift key will allow me to rescale this in proportion, so I'm not changing the aspect ratio. The Option lets it rescale from the center. So I'm going to come here, and I'm just going to scale it down to maybe about, let's try about that size, maybe a little bit smaller, about that size. Let me see how that works. I'm going to move it back up here, maybe somewhere around, somewhere like that, okay? And say apply. All right, I want the inverse of this right below it. Let's go ahead and do that repeating process. I'm going to make a duplicate copy of that layer. I'm going to use the transform flip vertical, and then I'm going to drag that down until it mirrors the top one. So I'm going to drag it down here. I'm going to shrink both of these up just a little bit. Oh, because it's upside down, it works in reverse here, but that's kind of fun. Let me go ahead and apply that, and let's scale this. Well, let me look at this lower one here. The lower one, you can see it provides me with the width and height in pixel dimension up here. So this is 1144 in height, and so let me apply that same transformation up here. So I can actually change that 1144. Oops. 1144. All right, there. I didn't commit. Well, let me just shrink this down. Let's go ahead and say apply. Come back up in here, and let's move this guy up now. All right. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to commit that transformation. I'm going to blend these again using this merge layer command. With the top one selected, it's going to merge down one layer. I'm going to duplicate that layer. I'm going to invert, or excuse me, flip it, horizontal orientation, and then I'm going to drag that over and place it here in approximately the same area. Okay, there. All right, starting to look okay, starting to get kind of fun. Okay, so we've got those 2 flowers. I'm going to save this daisy image, or the carnation image, for later, so I have it turned off. Let's bring in the rose image now. So I'm going to drag it and drop it in here. Say yes. Add it as a layer. And then I'm going to use the scale command just to shrink it down a little bit, holding the Shift and Option key down. Come down to about maybe about there. Maybe let's just orient it. Let's turn it just a little bit so that it fits in there kind of nicely. Something like that, okay? And hit apply. Then we can start building some of the other flowers in behind it, okay? We're going to keep it the top layer. So I'm actually going to come down here, select the layer underneath when I drag in the next flower. So maybe let's bring in these little white roses, I'd like to have a group of them kind of filling in these areas right here. So bring in the roses, drop them in so that I can see them. Well, let's go ahead and turn this rose layer off so we can see this image. Okay, so I'm going to shrink these down. And I know they're going to be somewhere in here. I'm just going to apply that temporarily, turn the rose back on. Then I can start to move this around. So probably maybe a little bit bigger and maybe about, well, that's not too bad right there. But I think I want them in the background behind these flowers. So I'm going to apply the transformation first, then I'm going to take this layer and bring it down to the bottom. Okay, they're going to be back in the background all the way. So it's now behind the pink flowers, okay? So again, I'm going to do the same technique. I'm going to take that and I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to flip it vertically and then bring it down below here so that it matches pretty much where we've got this other, maybe up here just a little ways. That's looking about right. Okay. All right. And apply that. Again, I want these two duplicated over on this side. So I'm going to merge these guys down. I'm going to then duplicate that layer. I'm going to flip it horizontally and drag it over here. You can kind of get the idea. And it becomes really fun. You can rescale these things. You can use the same flowers. You can group them in a lot of different ways. So it gets to be, it's really wide open where you go with this. You get pretty much the same orientation as it's got on the other side, something like that. Looks pretty good, and say apply. All right, now we're going to use let's go ahead and turn on this carnation. Whoops, I just moved that layer, so let me drag that back up. Turn on the carnation layer. And let's go ahead and transform it. So I select that layer. Transform it. We can't see it. It's because it's behind there, but this is really where I'm going to put it. I'm going to put it up here, probably at about maybe a little bit bigger. Okay, maybe rotate just a hair. Something kind of like that. All right, going to do the same thing. I'm going to be duplicating it. I'm going to invert it or flip it vertically and then dragging it down and bring it over here. Start to look kind of fun. All right, and say apply. Now, I want to fill in some of these other areas, okay? So I'm going to bring in that daisy image again. Let's go ahead and drag in the daisies again, add it as another layer. Let's go ahead and use the V for move. Okay, so you can see here, you can do, pretty much anything. So I'm going to come in here, set this probably about in there, maybe bring it up and scale a little bit. Okay, say apply. I'm going to duplicate that layer. You all know what's coming, right? Flip it horizontally, bring it over here. Okay. Now I can merge these down. It's not necessary, but I can merge these down because I'm not going to flip them since they're way apart like this. to put in here. Actually, what I'll probably do is just while this is selected, I'll make another duplicate of this. After I apply it, I'll pick another duplicate of this, and then what I'm going to do with that duplicate is come up here and rotate it 90 degrees. And that's where these two commands come from. So I'm going to rotate this counterclockwise 90 degrees and then fit it in up in here. Now I want that particular image underneath the carnations. So let's drag that all the way down underneath after we apply the transformation. There. Okay. Great. Now let me select that again, duplicate that, flip it vertically, and then bring it all the way down to the bottom and say apply. Now let's take a look at what we've got here. So pretty fun. We've filled in this entire canvas of flowers. I think our mothers are going to be really happy. But let's take this another step further. I'd like just a little bit more going on with this. Let me shrink it back down just a hair. I'd like a little bit more going on with this. I want to punch this up a little bit. I want to overlay, we've covered up my background pretty much. I want to lay the background in over the top of this. So I'm going to make a duplicate layer of my background, and I'm going to bring it all the way up to the top of the layer stack. And then I'm going to change its blend mode so that it enhances the underneath layer. So with that, let me see these. With this layer selected, I'm going to change this blend mode. And this, again, I've mentioned this on a number of different webinars and tutorials. I love the fact that I can just drag my mouse down and choose the effect that I like the best. And I like to do a couple of different things. One of the things I like to do is use a multiply mode at sort of a lesser intensity, and then duplicate the same thing and change blend mode to something overlay or soft light like this to give it a little bit more richness. So you can play with that and get it to where you really like it. I see a couple of things that I'd like to do now. The next thing I'd like to do is create like a drop shadow for this rose so that it looks like it's sort of resting over the top of what appears to be kind of this flower or floral wallpaper. I can do that by coming in here. I'm going to select the layer right underneath the rose layer, and I'm going to use a color fill layer. Okay, and I'm going to select black as my color, and I'm going to select multiply as my blend mode with an opacity up here, say 100%. Now that's pretty cool, isn't it? It looks good right there. You could do a card just like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a mask for this and then just paint it in gradually, very softly underneath to create this drop shadow. It's one of the ways that you can do drop shadows in this program very elegantly. So with a masking tool selected, I'm going to come in here up on the tool options bar and select inverse. So it's reversed the mask to be completely opaque, blocking out all of this black. Then I'm going to select a brush tool with a very large feather, as large as I can. Let's get the size up here, maybe somewhere like this. And I'm going to select opacity. I'm going to build this up in stages, so I'm going to reduce the opacity a bit. Make sure you don't have perfect brush set on because I don't want it being selective in how it applies. I just want to lay down this mask, and I want to paint in that layer. So you can see as I drag my mask, I'm going to get this nice sort of drop shadow effect right underneath here. So that's looking pretty good. But I think I want a little bit broader. So I'm going to increase the size of my brush. And then just give it a couple of bumps here. Great. All right. can see what kind of depth and dimension that adds to the image already. So that's pretty cool. You know, and I'm noticing that the flower itself looks a little bit down. Never, you know, never worry about testing things. I'd like to bring the rows, just the rows maybe, up over the top of the one layer that says multiply and see what that does. Look at what that does. It really brightens that rows up. So you can play with the layer stacking to create different effects as well. So we've got that now. What I need is a headline. Let's come and go to the headline graphics. So we've got a couple of different graphics. I like this one in particular, and you can find graphics online. You can create your own in another image editing program and just save it as a PSD, and then not a PSD, excuse me, a PNG that supports transparency, and then you can just drag and drop to get some headlines in here. Okay, so yes, I'm going to add it as a layer. Huh. Okay, so I was looking for it. I knew it was somewhere, so I must have had the stack selected, so it's all the way on the bottom. So let's grab that layer and move it all the way up to the top of the layer stack. Okay, there we go. Okay. Select the move tool, the transform tool again with the V key, and again Shift Option, and then just like bring it in a tad, just about like that. All right, so we are getting really close. Let me just say apply to that. What I'd like to do now is just to help that title stand out just a little bit. I want to create a drop shadow for that title, but I can't do that just by brushing black in behind it. I'd have to be really, really careful. So there's a way that I can actually make a selection because this type is all white. I can make a selection of it in perfect mask, and then I can use that as a mask. And so let me take you step by step through how I would create a drop shadow specifically for these letters, okay? With that layer selected, I'm going to create a mask, and I'm going to take it in to perfect mask. I'm going to use the keep color here, keep dropper. Let's go up to 100%, and I'm just going to select that color white. Then if I double click the magic brush with this keep color selected, it's going to apply a mask to that selection. So double clicking that, you don't see the mask because it's masking out everything, and there was no mask to begin with. Let's look at it with the mask grayscale. So now you can see I've got a mask surrounding those letters, all right? And that looks pretty good. So I'm going to hit apply. Now I have a mask around those letters. Well, I can use that mask on a different layer. What I can do is to come underneath. I'm going to actually turn that text off. I'm going to come to the top layer in the stack underneath the text, and I'm going to create another black color fill layer, okay, and say OK. Then, I hope I'm not losing you guys, but what I'm going to do is apply a mask to this color fill layer that's black, and it's going to be this mask. So I'm going to come back up in here, select, turn that layer on. Select the masking tool, and I'm going to come up under the drop-down menu and say Copy Mask. I've got my color fill layer, and say Face Mask. Now let's turn the white text off, and you see right under the white text I have this black text. Let me zoom back out. But the graph was this size, so it really only masked within the context of the graphic that I brought. I need all of this black mask out. So using my masking tool right here, masking brush, just set the feather to auto feather, and just come in here. mask out the rest of it. What I want are these layers, these letters in black. I'm gonna actually lay them in on top of a field of white and take it into perfect effects and apply a blur. So I'm going to end up with an image that allows me to blur these letters. Okay, so get that mask done. Now I'm going to create another color fill layer, and it's going to be white. I fill it with white, and okay. Then I'm going to blend. I'm going to merge these black letters onto this white color fill layer. Okay, so I'm going to do that using merge layers. Now what I ended up with is, let me mask this. Let me get rid of this. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm gonna time it out. We were having a little audio issue there. I hope it's better. Okay. So anyway, I've got this Happy Mother's Day text. I don't have to worry about this right now, but what I'm going to do is take this layer. I'm going to go ahead and turn on this other layer. Take this layer set, and I'm going to set it to multiply. Then I'm going to go into Perfect Effects with my white color fill layer with the black text. And I'm going to choose Blur. You can see what it's done here. It's automatically blurred the text to create that image. Now I'm going to reduce the halo a bit to about there so that it stands out, and I'm going to apply. Great. And when we come back in, you can see that I've blurred that layer so that that layer of black is now all fuzzy, and I've put the white text over the top of it. So you get that Happy Mother's Day with sort of that real nice reveal of shadow. So we are really almost done here. The other creative options that you have once you get all this done really are, I can come up, select the top layer and go layer, new stamped layer. What this is going to do is it's going to take all the visible layers, group them together, and then I can take that image into Perfect Effects and do any other kind of treatment that might be applicable. So let's go ahead and fill this up, maybe reduce it just a little bit. Take this into Perfect Effects, and then you can start really, playing to your heart's content. You can come to like the presets. Gosh, if you took a look at groups of presets, these are some of the photomorphous presets that we have online, but it's really fun to take an image like this and just select the entire group of presets with this little icon, and it takes the image and demonstrates the effect in these thumbnail views of all these different things. So you can see here, you can really go to town with a lot of different and fun presets. So gosh, I had one that I had used, or you can click on it like this and you can see the effects. Well, let's see, I can't remember which one it is that I had used. Modern Classic. I think it might have been Sharply Muted. So you can click on this, Sharply Muted. Yeah, I might, but then you can always come in with Perfect Effects and take away some of the take away or reduce some of the effects. So if you wanted to take away that sharpening and maybe lower the opacity of the black and white change, and you can also then come in here and select, other filters and, um, you know, work with other filters. So this is getting sort of this nice, real rich thing. Again, I don't have the time here to really uh, do a lot of playing around, but that's, this, to me, this program is so visual in its interface, and it offers so many chances to play, that it's a, it's a fun rabbit hole to go down and spend some time in. So you can take this layer, you can reduce the visibility of that new effect just to get it where you want it, and call it good.